it's very important to stop the war in Ukraine, because with this war in Ukraine, we are the losers of the war in Germany. The economy is now in a stagnation in the third year because cutting itself from cheap, competitive Russian energy. And we do need this. We are facing a deindustrialization of Germany.
So let me start by asking you, you've caused a lot of confusion amongst political commentators. I've seen the party described as far left, centre left, far right, and syncretic. Where do you stand?
Well, I would say we have a conservative policy on migration, but we have a progressive, more leftist policy on economics. And just let me explain you. We want, I mean, in this campaign, electoral campaign, we are representing four central issues on which we know that a large majority of the population is behind us. So the first one is we want diplomacy to end the war in Ukraine. So this also means that we are against the arms deliveries to Ukraine and against the economic war. And we want, again, cheap competitive energy, because Germany especially, but Europe itself, is the biggest loser of the war in Ukraine. And we want to stop the uncontrolled migration. That's why people are denouncing us as right or far right. But the majority of the population in Germany wants to stop the illegal migration. And we are against cancel culture. We are defending the freedom of the people and the citizens.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? I've read from Sarah Wagenknecht the idea that you are properly left wing. You're simply not lifestyle left wing. Does that describe it better?
Yeah, we are not the woke, the LGBTQ, and no borders, no nation left. And but we are also more in favor of a reasonable economic policy. For example, we need cheap, competitive energy from Russia again. So it was absurd, for example, to buy expensive LNG fracking energy from Russia, or the expensive fracking gas from the United States, or energy from the dictatorships in the Gulf region, thinking that this morally is better than it was. And this is why you have to pay a higher price. And this so-called left people, you mean, they are in favor of the sanctions. They are in favor of being high morality policy. And we think this is harming the industry and harming the people. So that's why we are for an economic sense, a policy of economic sense and reason.
And you also seem to have a conservative approach on some gender issues as well.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, we also want to stop the uncontrolled migration. For example, I mean, we are a split from the traditional left party. The German left party says no borders, no nation. Everyone can come to Germany. Everyone can stay in Germany, and everyone can get a social minimum of 1,250 euro. We, as Sarah Wagenknecht Alliance, we say this is just insane, because we are a social welfare state, Germany, and we cannot afford such a high migration into our social welfare system. And because you cannot afford it, and everything is, it's not endless, the social welfare state. So, and the large majority of the population is favor of this ending of this failed migration and asylum policies of the last 10 years. And this is why they are accusing us to being right. But I think we have a common sense with a large majority of the people in Germany. And we do think that this neoliberal progressiveness and with this wokeness and so on, it's just insane. We have the self-ID law in Germany, where everyone is allowed to change his or her gender in the department and can go then to protected areas from women, for example, and you are a biological man. So we think this is just insane and we have to protect, and there are just two biological genders. You can feel that you have a different agenda, but we say it's the biology. You cannot hide and you cannot change. The biology is clear. There are two genders, male and female, and that's it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because this being economically quite far left and on cultural issues conservative puts you right in the vanguard of a whole bunch of political parties across Europe, such as, for example, the Slovakian Social Democrats, who have policies pretty much identical to your own. This is a new movement in Europe, isn't it? And this is why it confuses the commentators that you can be both very left-wing economically and quite conservative on cultural issues, and that is the position which accords with the aspirations of most voters.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. That's the reason why we are a challenge for every party. We have seen before we built the party, I mean, we are just 1 year old. Our launch was 27th of January 2024, so just about 1 year old. We had four major elections, European parliamentary elections in east of Germany, three at the state level, and we have been very, very successful so far. And but we fought in before we did this. We just analyzed how is the political landscape, and there is a lack of representation of these kind of people who want a social welfare state, who want a policy of social justice, but they want a policy of economics which is beyond ideology. Like, for example, the current government in Germany with Chancellor Scholz and Minister of Foreign Affairs Baerbock, the Greens, they are full of ideology. The whole energy policy is totally built on ideology. They are fundamentalists, and we want to be more realistic and say, okay, what is a reasonable policy of economics and not what is my sectarian fundamentalist position. And this was the lack of representation, and being also in favor of stopping this illegal migration in Germany. I mean, you may heard about all these attacks with knives of asylum seekers who actually don't have the right to stay in Germany. Their asylum procedure was concluded that they have to leave the country, and they are still here. And that is the problem we are facing. The German population is facing a security problem, a security threat by this kind of migration policy, that everyone who once enters Germany is not leaving Germany because we are a welfare state and everyone gets this social minimum.
Yes, yeah, it's a very similar problem to the one we have here. Just finally, where do you expect your greatest successes to come? What do you think you can do in the elections coming up? And are you at your strongest in the northeast, the east of the country?
Well, we have been very strong in the East. So far, we made history in Germany once we started. After 6 months, we had a great success at the European parliamentary elections and in three elections on the state level in East Germany. And in two states, we are part of the government now. So that has been so far never happened in German history. And we are now heading to the general elections, the snap elections on 23rd of February. I do believe that it's very important to stop the war in Ukraine, because with this war in Ukraine, we are the losers of the war in Germany. The economy is now in a stagnation in the third year because cutting itself from cheap, competitive Russian energy. And we do need this. We are facing a deindustrialization of Germany. And that's why I think hitting this point in the general election campaign, and also for a stop of the of the illegal, the uncontrolled migration. I think these are the major issues in this campaign, and also, of course, to stay in a to defend our sovereignty. I mean, that means also that we have to see also in Europe that the interests of the United States are not also automatically the interests of Europeans and Germans. So we have to stand up for a bit more sovereign, independent foreign and security policy. And I think with the new president, Donald Trump, there is a window of opportunity actually to get the chance to have a more independent foreign policy here.